Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. It's Wellness Wednesday, and this week we are talking about the fourth trimester and creating a postpartum plan for you. So I wanted to segue into this because we've been really focusing a lot on perinatal mental health and all that comes along with that. And I want you to feel prepared in your postpartum period, just as you would create a birth plan. That oftentimes this becomes the focus during your pregnancy, and that moms are forgotten about, and that their care is not prioritized in the postpartum period. So we are going to think about what's important in terms of getting together a postpartum care plan for you. And the reason why we're doing this is that not only is it important to make you a priority, that this plan is truly for you, but it's also because the number one complication of pregnancy and postpartum is perinatal depression. That this is something that happens in 20% of women, and that it's underdiagnosed. It's often missed by even OB and midwife providers, as well as other people who are seeing mothers in those early weeks, such as pediatricians and other care providers, and that it's really important to be able to establish a postpartum care plan so that you can feel prepared to be able to create a space that feels the most healing and supportive for you. So we're going to focus on three main areas today for our postpartum care plan. We're going to start with the physical, and then the emotional, and the social. And we're really going to focus on those three areas and break those down a bit. So let's start with the physical. You've carried this baby for 9+ months. You've endured whatever kind of birth experience that might have been for you. And 60% of us identify some aspect of our birth experience as being traumatic. That's really important to note, because not only are you healing on a physical level from having birthed a baby, but you're also healing emotionally after suffering some kind of trauma, some aspect feeling traumatic to you. So when we think about the physical healing process and what would be important in your postpartum care plan, some of this feels very basic, but we're going to go through it because oftentimes these are really important reminders. And these are important things to write down in your postpartum care plan. That when you're feeling overwhelmed in those early days and weeks, going back to something that feels like a visual of, okay, what feels good to me? What do I need to focus on to care for myself? What do I need to ask for from others? So with regards to the physical, thinking about what kinds of foods you like to eat. What are healthy foods that you want to keep stock of in the house? Or if someone says, hey, can I bring you a meal? What would you like? That you can say, I would really love this. Keeping those healthy snacks on hand, that you are physically healing from your birth experience, and that if you are also nursing in addition to that, you are not only nourishing yourself, but also your baby. So really making that a priority. The second thing beyond food is hydration. That so often when we aren't getting enough water, that a lot of things start to kind of break down. That not only is that how our body runs the best, but that we can feel more anxious when we're not well hydrated, that it certainly does impact our nursing and our supply if we're not getting enough water, and it just makes us feel that we're able to have more energy as well. It keeps everything working as it should. So hydration is really important. In addition to that, thinking about how you need to heal physically, that rest is something that's really important. And I know sleep in those early days and weeks is really difficult, and everyone says sleep when your baby sleeps. And certainly that's something that should be prioritized, and that realistically you need to think about what feels and works best for you and what rest and restorative rest looks like for you. And then lastly, with regards to the physical aspect of your postpartum care plan, thinking about how you also need to heal physically beyond nourishing your body and resting. That if you suffered some kind of physical repercussion in the postpartum period from birthing a baby. If you suffered any tears, if you had a C-section, if there was forceps or a vacuum used in the delivery, if there was any kind of physical trauma to your body, that then needs to be taken into account in addition to that. So how can you heal from that? Is it connecting with a physical therapist or a chiropractor, acupuncture? Is there something that you need to do to help support your body in the healing process in addition to that? And how early to start that part of the healing process for you is really important to think about. So listing those things out, listing what foods you like, listing the hydration is really important, listing rest, really writing those things down as a guide so that it's kind of organized for you when you go into your postpartum period. So next we'll move on to the emotional part. So I really want you to think about how you feel most supported and cared for. What is it right now in your life that makes you feel loved and feel cared for? Is it having a chat with a friend? Is it being able to read a chapter in a book? Is it exercise? Is it the work that you do? What is it that helps you? And making a list of those things. And what are your go-to coping mechanisms? What, in those times where you're feeling most challenged, what are things that help you? Is it listening to music? Is it going for a walk? Is it picking up the phone and talking with a friend? What feels most helpful to you and being able to cope in those really difficult times? And writing those things down. And then lastly, I like to think about if you had a self-care toolbox, and you can literally make this if you feel like it would be helpful for you. What are 5 things that you would have in that toolbox? So some people will put some kind of massager in there, or essential oils, or a bubble bath, or a book, something that feels like that's tangible that you can kind of go to and say like, okay, in these moments, this is what I feel really good about. Some really wonderful tea or a snack that's delicious that you can put in there. Something that you can kind of go to, and it can be something that you can pick up, and it's going to make you feel a little bit better and cared for in that moment. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the social aspects of a postpartum care plan. That there's that saying that we've heard of, that it takes a village. And it's absolutely true that none of us exist or cope or live in solitude, that we depend on other people in some way to help support us. And I think especially for women, and absolutely for moms, that feels difficult to think about, how do I ask for help? This feels really awkward, especially when I'm not used to doing this. And it's kind of meeting that discomfort of asking for help and kind of pushing up against that a bit. And knowing that you will need help during this period, and that oftentimes we need more than what we had even anticipated. So thinking about who's a part of your village, and I want you to really think big. I want you to think broad here, that this is beyond your partner or maybe family members or your friends. I want you to think of neighbors. I want you to think of if you have someone that comes to clean your house, if you have friends of yours that have offered to bring over food, if you've had friends that have offered to take your toddler or your older child on a play date. I want you to write these things down of these people and kind of what you can ask of them, how they can help to support you during that period. And also something else that's really important during this postpartum period is establishing visits prior to even giving birth. So sitting down with, if you happen to have a partner, sitting down with your partner and saying, okay, who do we want to visit in those early days, early weeks, that first month? Do you want no one to visit during that first week or 2 postpartum? being able to share with people, hey, we are going to take this time to be able to bond as a family and get adjusted to having this new little person in our house. And then we'd love for you to come visit, during week 2. Reach out to us then and check in with us to see where we're at. We would love for you to meet the baby. And even better, if you can come over and bring a meal or help with, an errand or whatever the case may be, that would be incredibly helpful if that person also helped you with that as well. But really thinking about what would be most helpful for you. And then also checking with yourself about realistically, what kind of person are you? Would you identify yourself as more extroverted or more introverted? That when you're feeling overwhelmed during those early days, which is inevitable, what do you feel like works best for you? What is your go-to? Do you find yourself turning inward more? And maybe, let's say, identifying as more of an introvert, then it's going to be really important for you to have that quiet time or alone time to be able to reconnect with yourself, however that looks for you. Or if you find that you're more extroverted, or during those times where you're feeling overwhelmed or alone in this transition, being able to know which friends you can reach out to and say, like, hey, do you want to come over, or can we go grab a cup of coffee if you're feeling up to it? Whatever that looks like for you, how can you get that support? So there's a lot of really great resources out there on the 4th trimester and creating a postpartum plan. I also have a postpartum care plan that I give to my clients as well. If you would be interested in receiving that, I'd be glad to share that with you. You can shoot me a message and with your email address, and I can email that to you. And I'd be glad to share that as a resource for you. There's also some really wonderful books out there. I'll take a picture of this and put it in a post as well, but there's this one, the 4th trimester, and there's also a postpartum care plan, and there is some really wonderful practical advice about creating a sanctuary, a postpartum plan and environment that feels optimal for your healing, and prioritizing you and your needs. So I hope this was helpful for you today. Please reach out. I'd love to hear from you, and please share this video with a new mom or a mom to be or their partner if you would feel like that would be helpful for them. I'd love for them to be able to gain some insight from this as well. And I look forward to talking to you all again next Wellness Wednesday. Take care.